Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Spill the Tea with Tommy D. So the next couple weeks we are going to be doing a series of teas from a company called Yunnan Sourcing. So Yunnan Sourcing is more of a very purist tea company. They don't really do the blends and the different flavors that we've been doing these past few weeks. They're more about the pure tea leaves from different regions, different fermenting processes. So pretty much it's just going to be your black teas, your green teas, your oolongs, your whites, and your pu-erhs, which is what we're going to do today. So we did one other pu-erh episode. That was a cooked pu-erh. So just a brief, I recommend going to check out the other episode if you want to learn a little bit more about pu-erhs. The one we did was a cooked pu-erh. Pu-erh tea is the ones that we have here. It's naturally stored in a cave for at least a year to naturally ferment and oxidize, and it gives it much more of a mushroom kind of earthy flavor the longer it sits. The cooked pu-erh, they use a process to accelerate that fermentation so you get a closer rendition of that flavor. But this week we are going to do a raw pu-erh. So this is a pu-erh cake. It is a compressed pack of tea, and they compress the tea leaves together, and this is how they would let it sit. Now this one is a very young pu-erh. This is a 2019 Spring Morning Raw Pu-erh. So it's only a year old. You can see how big it is. It's very, very big. It's only about a year old, so it's going to be very, very green. They refer to it as green pu-erh or raw pu-erh. So the leaves are much, much different. So we can see, if you want to take a look at the leaves, they're very, very big. Now I broke a decent amount off. I broke about half the cake off just so I can store it in a canister for drinking these leaves, and then I'm going to just kind of leave this one, and hopefully it'll age a little bit longer. So compared to the cooked pu-erh, you can see the leaves are much, much lighter. And it smells much more, it's kind of cliche to say, but a little bit more leafy, because it is vegetal, and vegetal is also the word we described our sencha with. But it's not, like sencha has more of a grassy vegetal, this is more of a leafy, earthy vegetal. It's also very sweet. I think it's because of the young leaves and they're not fermented. When they ferment, it's going to get more dark and more rich, and this is much more lighter and sweet. So a pu-erh cake like this, because this is a 2019 pu-erh, it's only a year old, which is like the minimum requirement for a pu-erh. This one only ran me about $30, which is it's a bargain because it's a very, very large amount of tea. However, the long-aged pu-erhs, some pu-erhs will be aged for like 30 to 40 years. Those can run like hundreds of dollars. And since I only get about 30 views of these a week, I'm gonna and no corporate sponsorships, that's not really in my budget right now. So we're gonna do the green pu-erh, nice and young. And after this is done, I'm gonna store this, and then like I said, I'm gonna let it sit a little bit longer. It smells so good, I can't stop smelling it. I'm really excited because this is like the first raw pu-erh I've ever had. So let's brew this tea. So when it comes to brewing a raw pu-erh like this, the cooked pu-erh was much easier to scoop into teaspoons. These leaves are much, much too large to actually be able to scoop with a teaspoon. So I'd say if they were smaller, I have about 2 to 3 teaspoons of tea in here. And you can steep. The pu-erh tea doesn't really get bitter, so you can kind of play with the flavors a little bit, and the timing is not as strict as a lot of other teas. So what we're going to do is, like I said, it's about 2 or 3 teaspoons. I'm going to do a 3-minute steep time. Some people require a 4-minute steep time, but I think 3 minutes would be pretty good, and that way I put a decent amount. I might have put more like 4 teaspoons in there because with pu-erh tea, same thing with the cooked pu-erh, like you can get a lot of steeps out of this. So like that amount of tea, I'll probably get like 3 or 4 cups of tea. Just like the other pu-erh, you can use boiling water. So again, about 3 teaspoons, maybe, and then I'm gonna do 3 minutes with boiling water. And here we go. So a lot of companies now have been reshooting their commercials with their employees wearing masks, And I think that's good because it's like trying to let people know, like, hey, don't worry about coming to our place. You know, we're being diligent, all this and that. But I did see a commercial for an exterminating company. And they were clearly like, look at us, we're wearing masks. You're an exterminating company. You deal with dangerous chemicals. You should have always been wearing masks. So if the Subaru dealership wants to let people know that they're wearing masks, I think that that's probably a good thing. But doctors, dentists, and exterminators shouldn't have to validate that they're wearing masks. That's like a construction worker being like, hey, I just started wearing the hard hat. Not bad. Like, if your exterminating company now just started wearing masks, I think you have much more to be concerned about than COVID, because that's kind of how most lawsuits go. Like, I'm not saying it's gonna be like mesothelioma or I butchered that one. Any of those things where they're just like, if you were injured by your workplace, call this, from like asbestos. So if your exterminating company just started wearing masks, you're probably gonna have a series of lawsuits on your way. So just be on the lookout for that. Actually, speaking of lawsuits, I don't know if anyone saw this, but the like famed law group company, the law firm Cellino and Barnes, has officially announced their breakup. It's been like a couple years in the making, and they're officially like not around. It's so strange. And the big question that arises is what is going to happen to their famous jingle and commercial? You know, 800-888-8888. I have a solution for them. I think what Cellino and Barnes should do is keep the company Cellino and Barnes, but just change it to Cellino or Barnes and keep the phone number. So you just call them up and then you get to choose. You get an automated message. You'd be like, press 1 for Cellino or press 2 for Barnes. And I think that's the only way that their company will actually, their like business career will actually survive. Because nobody wanted Simon without Garfunkel. So I don't really expect them to do very well. They're pretty much like, you just have to pick a team, I think. They're going to be like the Twilight of the injury law world. Except they don't have six-packs. And hopefully their biggest following won't be a bunch of teenage girls. That's not going to be a good look. I'm really expecting them to eventually have like a reunion case. Or even worse, they like have a case where one of them is the defense and one of them's the prosecutor. You know, Barnes would be like, well, clearly my client has been severely injured. Also, the prosecutor's an ass who never put my name before his ever. I don't know. Alright. Let's taste this raw Pu-erh tea. So I already spilled some. So there it is. So this tea is so much lighter than our cooked Pu-erh. Again, if this was a 30-year aged Pu-erh, it's going to be much darker, but 1 year, it's a baby. It's a baby Pu-erh. It is a very light, pale, brownish green, I'd say. Definitely a little bit browner than the gunpowder green tea that we did a couple episodes back. So we are going to smell it. Yeah, it's very sweet smelling and kind of complex. It has a very leafy earthiness to it. The sweetness is what really amazes me, how sweet these leaves are before. It's very interesting. It almost reminds me of like, it's like a sencha black tea hybrid. Also has like some oolong properties. It's very, very interesting. It's also very hot. So I'm going to show you guys these leaves first. Let's take a look at them. And again, I put a hefty amount of leaves in there just because I like the strongness of it. And this tea won't really get bitter. So you can see like how big these leaves are. They were pretty much twisted a little bit and compact, but the Pu-erh cake, the leaves are pretty much just like put in together, and when you break it apart, you actually kind of have to like wiggle it. You don't want to just snap it because it's gonna break all the tea leaves. So it's they're huge. Yeah, very sweet and vegetal, really. Very different from the cooked. It's really, really good. I'm excited to see how it continues to age. So I'm gonna take this cake and I'm gonna put it in like a cardboard box so it's a little more breathable. And I actually have to let it sit for like 7 years before it's gonna take the flavor. So we'll see if my crazy attention span will do that. I gotta hide it. I'm gonna put it in like a safety deposit box. Yeah, it's a very sweet, smooth, and complex tea. I would probably say if you have been getting into like greener teas, you probably would enjoy a very young raw Pu-erh. If you're very big into black teas, I would say either invest a decent amount of money in a properly aged Pu-erh or just go with the cooked Pu-erh. So I understand why the appeal is for the cooked Pu-erh, because you can get a much bolder, earthier tea without having to wait 30 years. Oh, 30 years is a long time. Dang. But I like it. I think it's very good. Very, very fresh. So again, Yunnan Sourcing is going to be all about more of these pure teas. They're not going to have any flavors like that. So if you've been enjoying those pure teas, I suggest you check them out. It was very, very tasty tea. All right, so as always, I want you to please like, share, and subscribe. If you want me to try a 30 aged year Pu-erh, maybe I'll start a Patreon page. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks again for all the support. I've been getting a decent amount of views, and as long as everyone's enjoying them, I'll keep doing them. So, we'll see you next time.